Good day, everyone, and welcome. I'm pleased I have my colleague with me, Donald Campbell. Donald, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, really. And as I always do, I always thank people for inviting me into their world and a part of what they do. So thank you very much, sir.
Excellent, excellent. So today, for this dialogue, we're going to talk about the forgotten generations. So as one of the principles, please tell us what it's about and why and what you intend to do, or what you have been doing first, and then we'll talk about the future.
Okay, thank you for that. I wrote a book called My Path of Life. And I say to everyone that they've got a path of life. So this is about my path of life up until I was 18. Now, my path of life meant I was left behind in the Caribbean as a young boy, and my parents were here in England. So there is a wrench, whichever way you want to look at that, of separation from parents. So the question is, in between that, what happened next? What happened to me as a child, and what happened to the parents here or wherever they went in the world? And I thought, you know what, this must have happened to thousands of other people. So the big question mark of what happened next is what the forgotten generation set out to do initially, to find out all the differences and ups and downs, good and bad, of what happened to some of our people. And there's been some astounding stories. And the stories also linked to the mental trauma that some of our youngsters and indeed the parents experienced because of the split in the family, for whatever the reason was. So the forgotten generations now look at people in terms of African and Caribbean people, their wider perspective, their life in the journey from the Caribbean to England in this case, or other places, and find out how they actually got on. And there's quite a cross-section of achievements. And what we try to do is highlight those achievements of people who have done notable things in society to actually bring it to the fore. And if I was to start off with people saying World War II, who've actually gone out in the front line and gave their service to make us free, a lot of those people have gone on, but there are some that's still with us, and we'd like to capture their story, which is what we're doing. And the unique selling point of this, the forgotten generation, is to capture live testimony of people telling their own stories of how they've got on in life and their achievements. And the ethos of all of this is to get these historical contributions in the national curriculum on a permanent basis, so that our stories are told to the youngsters along with others. We should not be omitted from the history books and the learning of our youngsters. Wherever you're from, you should learn about others in the school on a permanent basis. So that's the short version of the forgotten generations. And so we regularly interview people about their life story, whether it be militarily or otherwise, and make sure that their life story, where it can be shown, is told to other people.
Excellent, excellent indeed. And of course, our community has a collective responsibility to do these things for ourselves anyway, don't we?
Absolutely, yes. And I don't think we do it anywhere near enough. We write books, and so we should continue to write books, but we should also try and get the visual side of things out there, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, may be reluctant to read books or just haven't got the time, but so they may well like to press a button, especially the younger generation now, and look and watch a recording. So we need to have that platform now, to give them a choice to listen, watch, and learn about history.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a term we use, the means of communication may be different, but the needs are the same.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
there's a reality in terms of how people learn and communicate today. And so what we must do as a community is adapt to that so that we can, you know, continue what we would call the cultural continuity. And we do that through the stories. Now, I think what's important about what you do is about recognition. So could you talk to us about that, the importance of that word recognition?
Yes, recognition in terms of what our people have achieved, and that is, you know, there's quite a lot here. And for instance, shall we just talk about World War II in the sense that we had a World War II veteran who joined from Sierra Leone as an officer in the Royal Air Force. And he was a pilot who then went on to become a navigator because he was good at it. And he was the one that ended up managing the windrush ship to and from the Caribbean. Now, I've cut that story very, very short.
What was his name?
His name is Johnny Smythe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And where
Johnny
was he from?
Sierra Leone, West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Johnny Smythe ended up being a prisoner of war after being shot down during World War II. But after being released, he came back and rejoined the Air Force and ended up managing the windrush ship to and from the Caribbean. Some people may know this, but some may not. And the reason why I know this is because I interviewed a World War II veteran. One, he was on the ship from here to the Caribbean. And I also interviewed another World War II veteran who was on the ship coming back from the Caribbean. So those stories are out there and our people need to know. There's a lot that's happening between all of that, you know. But yeah, there's World War II, World War I. If we were to go back to World War I, for instance, we have a gentleman by the name of Herbert Morris. I say a gentleman, he was only a young lad who left the Caribbean when he was 16, came here, joined the British West Indies Regiment down in Seaford in Essex in 1915. And basically back in the day, they weren't allowed to join the normal military service. So they formed the British West Indies Regiment. And people from the Caribbean formulated that regiment from Caribbean islands, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, and many others. And this young man came and joined the 6th Battalion. And while he was down serving in France from this battalion, the 6th Battalion, he wandered away from his post. And the second time he did that, they decided to court-martial him. And he was court-martialed. And during the court-martial, age 17, he said to the judge, "Sir, all I can hear is noise in my head." So there he is, age 17, having left the Caribbean 5,000 miles away as a young man. Now, where were we when we were 17? A lot of us weren't on the front line, very harsh. So he was expressing that he wasn't feeling well by saying to the judge, "Sir, all I can hear is noise in my head." Basically, he was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. But that did not stop them from court-martialing him and being shot at dawn by his own countrymen. You know, so these stories are there to be told, to say what our contributions have been in the interest of promoting
and the sacrifice, of course.
Sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
So can you tell us of some of the activities that the Forgotten Generations and the celebrations and those types of anniversaries that you've been involved in over the years?
Yes, we celebrate the life of, I just mentioned Herbert Morris, and we've got a remembrance service coming up shortly on the 17th of next month, 17th of September at the National Memorial Arboretum. And that is to remember him at the Shot at Dawn Memorial. So that is something we're looking to do on an annual basis to raise the profile of what happened to this young man. We do have other things that we do throughout the year. We do talks in the community. We have recently been involved with Chester University, where we did a research into why West Indians Africans join the military, why they stay, why they leave, and what happened after they leave. So basically what we're looking at is trying to improve the experience of people who join the military, to ensure that youngsters who wants to use that as a matter of profession can have a better experience than what some of us have had in the past. So there's several things that we do. We go into schools, we go into the community, organizations, churches, and university, as I mentioned before, and we do talks about the history of British, African, and Caribbean people. So, but we also interview people about their life stories. So, you know, I say that everybody's got a story to tell, but some more than others. So we like to interview people, especially veterans, World War II veterans, who their stories are not out there. We need to make sure we recognize these I call them our heroes. And, you know, fortunately, we were able to interview some who have recently passed, namely Mr. Albert Jarrett. And he was the second oldest baton bearer at the recent Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. And that was absolutely fantastic. So right across the board, we interview anybody who'd like to tell their stories, and we put it live on our website for people to see if they're willing to do so.
Excellent. Just before we close this current dialogue, I'd like us to talk about the Points of Light Award. And I know that you are a recognized, you know, ahead of me, I should say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just for the people who don't understand, so the Points of Light Award is a daily award, recognizes outstanding individual volunteers, people who are making a change in their community. And this is an award by the British Prime Minister of the day. And these are awarded every day of the year. So congratulations on receiving yours.
And likewise, sir.
Thank you very much. And what is your number?
My number is 1944. And it was myself and the recent gentleman, Mr. Albert Jarrett, World War II veteran, that went together. So his was 1943. So this was quite a surprise. We were invited to number 10 to the Queen's Jubilee Big Lunch. And we knew nothing about this particular award until we got there. And they tapped us on the shoulder and said, yeah, we've got this for you. So it was very, very welcoming, really. And that Mr. Jarrett was like the pinnacle of his legacy, so to speak, because unfortunately, he died shortly after that. But, you know, his story.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you tell us a bit about him, the story of Mr. Jarrett?
Yeah, Mr. Jarrett was a gentleman that I met, and we fortunately traveled around the country for 5 years. And indeed, he met a lot of people, including the Prime Minister, Prince William, the Defense Secretary, with the Royal Albert Hall, National Memorial Arboretum, several different functions, been interviewed on various BBC, ITV, Telegraph. You know, he was a great ambassador for his generation, and he communicated very well with the media and people per se. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, he died shortly after we went to number 10. And we were like father and son, really, and it's like one half of me had gone. But the icing on the cake for Mr. Jarrett was that he carried the baton very, very proudly on the in August, in July, August, and died a week later, which is so unfortunate. But his story can be seen on our website of his achievement, because he certainly left a legacy behind. And now he's also been sought after by the Wiltshire Museum, who have now extended his life story into the museum. Excellent. And will be extended beyond that into other counties for the foreseeable years. So yeah, well done
That-
to Mr. Garrett.
that's great to hear, and hopefully his citation will be there as well for people to read and understand.
Absolutely,
what
absolutely.
the award
Yes,
for.
yes, yes, yes. Because there's a direct link to his achievement in terms of the point of lights that you mentioned, that people will be able to see and learn about the legacy that you left behind.
Excellent. So I'm 2069.
2069.
That's a few after you. But what I am very pleased about in relation to the award, which I think is most important, will be the collaboration between us through that program, with recognition as one of the missions and the value of the work that we will be doing together, so that we find more people from within our communities that have made their contribution. And of course, not just veterans, but veterans are really important because of their achievement, and of course, to come through, and they would have been selfless individuals as well. You know, we've got lots of servant leaders within our communities yet to be recognized. So I think it's great that we can collaborate and make a difference in that way, in amplifying and ensuring that those stories are told.
Absolutely. I really love that initiative by you there, because I think sometimes we fall short of amplifying our achievements within the community. And I think, you know, it's a disservice to our younger generations, because they need to know that they have got our shoulders to climb on. And the fact that we've been there and achieved these things should be a motivation to them to achieve even more. You know?
Absolutely. And the other area which I'm pleased that we will collaborate on is around mental health and well-being as well, but mental health from the systemic side of the mental health system, but also our community and the community's responsibility for supporting the well-being, particularly from the mental health perspective, because I think that that's important, because you touched on that in terms of the trauma that people would have gone through.
Yes, I totally agree with that, in the sense that, you know, if you abandon people and don't look at them in the whole perspective on the individual, what you then find is that you are trying to manage the symptoms of the cause of down the road by throwing people into jail and in the mental institution without looking at the cause. Now, why do people behave in a certain way? I think we should address that rather than saying, oh, there is somebody else that looks like, you know, they're going to do this or do that, so let's do this to them. You know, the trauma that a lot of people have experienced, some, as I mentioned before, because of the separation from the family, you know, the split, that is a great trauma that really need to be looked into and explore.
Yeah, and people carry that throughout their lives. So if you look at the Caribbean community here in the UK, we also have the trauma of young people, and I know of my generation, born here and also abandoned, also didn't have the parental guidance and care that
there you go.
that
There you
they
go.
expected. So
Yeah.
we've got that balance between those who were born in the Caribbean and came over to the UK, but we also have the stories of those born in the UK.
Absolutely.
Parents
Absolutely.
left and went back to the Caribbean, and the children who were born here were left here.
Yeah.
It's complex. So that's why this focus around, and we always talk about the values of respect and inclusion are the common ground for all, regardless of background, culture, or status. So we're trying to get everybody to respect each other, because there's stories and there's trauma on all sides. You know, there's no hierarchy. So how do we best focus on the the well-being of the community through recognition, celebrating successes, sharing the learning where we can, and reducing the conflict and unnecessary confusion within the community the best way we can. And you do that by respecting each other and creating a consensus.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with all what you said there, because what I've found in going on in the community is that a lot of people are sheltered in terms of learning, and a lot of people react to you because of their learned behavior. They don't know any different to what they say, how they react to you as an individual, regardless of where you're from. They may have learned it from the media in terms of internet, newspaper, or the TV. So education is key. Yeah. So you educate people about people, and then we learn to respect each other more. So I think it's vital that we proceed in this fashion.
And the type of work that you've done as well, the importance of this work going back into Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, because I think it's important to follow the legacy line back into where we came from as well, because that also, I think, would help shape the attitude to people who've gone back to live back in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean because of the journey that they had in the UK. And of course, the many sacrifices that were made along the way, and then even to be able to return home and make that journey back home is again a monumental task.
It is. It's a monumental task, but a step at a time.
Absolutely.
And I believe we'll certainly make our mark and get there. Yeah. And the important thing is to ensure that we help others along the way, along their journey.
All right, so thanks for that. And I always like to ask, what's your message for the community?
My message for the community is that education is key, and that we should ensure that, especially as parents, we try to bring our children up with as much respect as possible. Sometimes it's the community that we're dealing with these days, it's kind of, different and challenging, and the youngsters do know it. But however, we should instill in our children to walk the right path because of the importance of it in terms of going forward, because they too will very likely be bringing children of their own into the world. So, respect and all those sort of things. But also to learn from others who have been out there and done certain things, and be ambitious and go for your ambition. Whatever you want in life, strive for it.
Absolutely. And of course, again, back to recognition and support is to support those young people who do the right thing. Indeed.
And get them to be an example to other young people. Exactly. To say that the jail and the mental institution should be a minor rather than a major, in the news. The major part of it is that we do well in society and continue to do well, because oftentimes the media just portray negativity rather than the positive that we do. But we should force them to tell the positive that we do, and that's what you're doing so well, sir. So I must congratulate you on that. Going forward.
Great. See you again soon.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. And that was Donald Campbell of the Forgotten Generation. Actually, before we go, Donald, what's the website address if people want to get hold of you?
So the website address is theforgottengenerations.com. So it's 3 words together, the forgotten generations with an S.com, and you'll reach us. I look forward to you, and you can become a member, free membership, and then we'll update you regularly with what we do.
Right. Thank you, and good day.
Thank you.